Alrighty, good morning. Oh, good afternoon. I don't even know what time it is. I was going to use my whiteboard, but my girlfriend got me a permanent marker instead of a whiteboard marker, and so I can't clear the board without using some methylated spirits, and I just don't have any on me. I could probably go look for some, but I'm going to try and do what I would do with a whiteboard with my words. It's going to be pretty tricky because some physical expressions of what I'm trying to do would assist greatly in this explanation of why we are in communism and why it is breaking down in front of us between my children's mother and their father. My children's mother is clearly a communist, her husband is clearly a communist, and their father is not. So I spent the first 20 years of my life learning skills at a relatively low wage and providing for my children and her. The kind of trade-off with this arrangement is that I now hold the skills in my brain, and I would normally, for the last couple of thousand years, I would transmit those skills to my children. And one of the great ways to do that would be to build an estate, a house, for a family house. I would acquire some land that I would purchase with the resources that my father assembled during his lifelong of work, his entire life's worth of collected resources. I would acquire appropriate land and I would begin to build an estate, a family house. And because I have the skills, this is far less costly than you would be led to believe. In fact, in some cases, it may actually cost absolutely zero. It just requires work. And this work can be kind of broken down into like a time period. So say I build it out of blocks. And say in a day I can cut, move, and place one block, like on Minecraft, except for real. Then, and let's say the blocks are located on the property. And this doesn't even have to be cut, it could be it could be formed. Like basically we then have a number of blocks in the building divided by days, and this will give me the amount of time that that if I do that, I will have a house. This doesn't require any public transport. It doesn't require any public education, because public education would be done by me. This doesn't require basically anything. And then we can kind of budget out how much, let's say food is the input to run this livestock here, which is myself, to build my own dwelling. And this is all easily done with mathematics. Unless, of course, there is a community of communists that have moved into the state that used to be not communist, and they are actively trying to steal property and to turn the entire place into a communist state. In this circumstance, then you would be required to spend every waking hour trying to trip these people up and expose their radical ideology for the complete suicidal concept that it inevitably is. And that is what I've had to do. There is no point in beginning any of these projects whilst this is being maintained. And considering I've already been imprisoned and I've already had my income source destroyed, I've had my reputation destroyed or attempted to be destroyed by these individuals, this is the first point that has to be addressed. There is a very serious problem going on in this country. The people being supported by our government are attacking the people that aren't being supported by our government. It is absolute communism. And so you have to fucking tell us what you're doing. You can't, like, this is, and this isn't, people might think this is discrimination or racism against Irish people. No, you've done this. You've already done it. The concept of you hiding behind police just amplifies it. The concept of you being completely mute in any of the explanations of these just amplifies it. There are places in the world I can go to and do this ancient thing of doing my own thing, and I will more than likely be fine. But that involves leaving my children in an occupied communist state, which I don't want to do. Every step since separating from my children's mother has been a step into horror, where I've watched her drag my children into this hell. Where I've watched her project her state-led force out of the urban zone to come and collect me an hour out of the CBD, put me in a maximum security prison for sharing a photograph of my family. You're already there. You've already done all the things. You all have. You're in a communist Ponzi scheme. I've been extorted with my children held hostage, and I have a stack of paperwork that big from the government saying how much I owe. From what income do I owe this? I had an income. I didn't have a plan to go immediately into this type of thing. I was building a nest egg. I was building a business that was going to operate in the world, knowing that then I could, at any point, once I had that, I didn't need a lot of income. It was a simple equation to provide my family with a stable base to work from into the future. See, the problem is that this Irish individual is going off historic precedent where those buildings are already built. We're in Australia. It's not very old. We haven't even been able to build the building yet because we've been under constant attack by those who claim that their land was stolen, who claim that all kinds of things. And all of it breaks down. It just all is absurd. These two individuals, by testimony from my children, are spending more on alcohol in a week than I'm spending in 3 months. I haven't watched my children thrive in this public education. I've watched them deteriorate into kind of helpless, meandering drones. They haven't been able to learn the skills that I spent years in backbreaking labour acquiring. They haven't been able to use the tools that I squirreled away from savings because they've been forced to live in the utopian communist paradigm in a rental on a treadmill, basically, And at gunpoint, I'm being requested to fund this treadmill. This inflationary treadmill that will never end. It will keep inflating, the demands will keep being more, and the degradation in my children will continue because you have split up all types of professions, all types of trades, so that they fit into a labour hire model where the suppliers at the top control the entire market. And they can't have skilled tradesmen because those skilled tradesmen would eventually combat the supply chain monopoly. This is why the day before I was cast off my mentally ill mother's property that she acquired through divorce to my father. She was married for a 5-year period. I was attempting to make improvements to the property by building a stone wall. This is what convicts did when they got here. They built the buildings around you that are made of stone. This was not allowed in this paradigm, in this pension communist paradigm. There is a glut of boomers that are sitting on a pension, and there is a glut of immigrants that are sitting on a pension, and there is a glut of single mothers that are sitting on a pension. And this is the paradigm that our politicians are pandering towards. But to what end? The retired tradesmen are retiring. They're not going to pass on their skills. And my generation of tradesmen are fed up and have had enough. Or they're being lured into these high-paying, low-responsibility, compartmentalized professional roles to kind of oversee projects that are mainly being assembled from foreign imported materials. This is an invasion. It's just a really long one, and I'm not participating in an invasion on my own land. I'm not building the wharfs and the docks and the storage facilities for an invasion in the future. So we need some clear answers. Why is this paradigm being attacked? Why are the estates of the pioneering families of the country being prevented from even being built by people that have just arrived? It's that simple. There is no other thing going on. If your family has arrived here and has been provided for, far above what was provided to those people who came here hundreds of years ago, then why are you in the process of invasion onto this land? Why are you projecting communism? Why are you supporting a communist system? What end are you trying to get to? Even in this, their stepfather, when I said, "Do you own property?" he said, "No." Property ownership was the base of all consideration. But it gets really murky when that property is just a block of land with an old house in disrepair, because it's easily attacked by these individuals. That's not a house. That's not a house. No, you're right. No. It's a house that was being renovated by me. You're occupying a country where the traditional owners never had houses, and you're claiming that my property held, that by that example leads the charge of all freehold land in the entire country and projecting backwards to other countries. If you attack that freehold property ownership paradigm from a rental, on a salary job working for someone else, if that company is majoritively foreign owned, then what exactly are you doing? How else can you describe that apart from invasion? And this is where we get to the number one problem. No one in this situation has any idea what I'm fucking talking about. We spent hundreds and hundreds of years establishing firm foundation to provide stability to a country, and not one piece of it is being respected in this current political age. I don't exactly know where I'd put the pin in the timeline to address this, where this went askew. My guess is it's probably the gold standard in America and America's projection in media and in entertainment and in manufacturing materialistic, disposable goods. But that's not where we are. That's not where I'm speaking from. I know where I stand. I know who else is watching this line in the sand with far more to lose than I have. If you attack this level, you'll attack every level. You are thieves. You are criminals. You are invaders. And you are terrorists. And I think it might be time to go home. I've got a little picture I might put up here, and it says, it's Conor McGregor, and he says, Ireland is for the Irish. Yeah, maybe it is, I think. I think Ireland is for the Irish. You've got houses back there. You can scrap in the streets over them. But no longer are you going to prevent us from building our family holdings, our family security on the land that we have settled. Every attempt has been made to do this civilly by my side. And you continue to use the resources that are supposed to protect vulnerable individuals as your own private army, using the kind of shortcomings in that system. The short-sighted procedural policies to enact your thievery onto your own family, your own children. With no answer. Nothing. Not one member of that family has ever owned property in Australia. Has ever attempted to own property in Australia. So what are they doing here? How is this not child abuse? And I'd actually say that where the child abuse started was in the public education system that my children's mother was exposed to. She's in no way been prepared to understand the world that she lives in, or the country that she lives in. And the government just sits by while a young Australian family tears itself apart based on misconceptions, actively primed these individuals into being hostile agents of a communist attempted coup. In a state that has more land than any state, I think, ever has had. We landed here at the peak of the Industrial Revolution. And this shortcut ideology of that revolution is apparent all around us. There's nothing. There are no estates, there are no large buildings. There's a couple in the city, a few, a handful. When I went to Hobart was a lot better. This is an encampment that has failed to be stabilised. And rather than governing for the future stability of this state, they are governing the encampment. They're governing a projected financial situation of bungalows for hire. The entire state is being run like an Airbnb management company, while you oversee vast tracts of cleared and misused and misappropriated real estate. This has to be brought to an end. It is putting anybody who wishes to actually create something into the future, who wishes to hop off your ever-increasing treadmill and actually live a human life. It's putting us at constant war. There is a constant war. Very much, if you think of in Russia and Ukraine, where the requests for NATO to stop arming Ukraine on the Russian border, this is far worse. You're not just on the border, you're in our city. You're in our government. You haven't just armed that border, you've deteriorated our citizens. You've dumbed them down. You've implanted them into this bullshit. And there is no response. Nothing. We don't have a cost of living crisis. Baseline commodities to sustain human life have never been cheaper. We don't have a building crisis, a housing crisis. We have a automated like life support system that is being projected as government's sole purpose. As far as government's concerned, we may as well be in a hatchery, where without being plugged into its public education and without the hospitals looming within a 5-minute journey, we're all going to die. And that just doesn't sit well with people whose families have been here since the beginning, who knows that we arrived on sailboats without electricity, where hospitals meant chewing on a bit of leather and having your leg removed, or scurvy on a long journey. This is giganticism. This is communism manifest, but without the trophy. The trophy probably, if there was a trophy for successful communism, it probably would have been given out 40 years ago. That's why this feels so weird. We're in the failed Soviet Union already. We're not attacking communism over there. They're attacking communism here. Their revolution was successful, and they are re-emerging in a new paradigm. They cleared the board. But our board was already clear. We didn't need to clear the board here. We're just sitting in someone else's offshore communist outpost, and we have been for 40 years. So it took me to become an archaeologist and a historian to actually find the reality that my family is in on this land. You're protecting, with murderous intent, a failed system. You are provably all guilty of attempted murder. Of child abuse, of terrorism. But you are unable to even see it. I'm a visitor inside your little robot. I've checked every connection. I've gone to every end of the line. And it's about time that all the people on this treadmill pull out their calculators and do the maths. How big do you want your house to be? How many blocks? If you can get one block cut and placed a day, how long will it take you to build your own house? Because I can guarantee you, unless you've got some really, really, really extreme wants, like you want an absolute gigantic mansion, that's not going to take 30 years. This system is the tail wagging the dog. We have service staff and sales reps at the top, and then we wonder why we don't have anything, because they don't know how to do anything. And they're actively attacking the individuals in their own society that are trying to give them the answers. They're actively trying to kill the only people that know where we are and how to get out of it. I'll end with a little thing. If you watch, there's a documentary on Henry Ford, celebrated as an Industrial Revolution leader, who, the assembly line. It's funny because the assembly lines are human. They've been existent for millions of years, probably. I love when a person building cars, in an American car manufacturer claims to be the godfather of the assembly line. It's like, I mean, what about the pyramids? You reckon maybe there was an assembly line at the pyramids? I think there probably was. But there's a really good documentary about him where he talks about his second factory that he built with everything that he learnt from his first. Henry Ford wouldn't enter that factory after he built it. He went there once. And then I think he pretty much fell into a constant depression based on what he had created and seeing the human beings that had been implanted into the thing that he sketched on a piece of paper. And that's where we are. That's where all of you are. And I will die trying to get yous out of it. More than likely at the hands of one of you. If this isn't stopped, if this isn't exposed, and if this isn't ended.